And we are live. Anthony Migliorino and Zachary Small on Oak and Rock Fatherhood. Anthony, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, Zach? Happy to be here and looking forward to this, brother.
Ready to kick it off? It's the first
Yes,
domino
sir.
of many that are about to fall. So let's talk Oak and Rock. Let's dive into the creation of what it is we're doing here, and then we can go right into the Q&A we're doing tonight. And for those who are watching, those who are tuned in, once you jump on, toss your questions out there. We'll address them as we go. But first, we're going to do a quick intro as to what this is, what it's all about, because right now we're operating on the Family Alpha channel. And this is not the Family Alpha. This is an entirely new resource that's coming to the table due to some technical difficulties. Who knew that StreamYard made you wait 24 hours before you could launch it on your channel? We're deciding to boost from here. But next, we'll have an Oak and Rock channel that's dedicated to this discussion itself. And that's where we'll be live streaming from here. So if that's what you want to check out, make sure you go in the description, click on that link, you can check it out. But Anthony, let's talk what brought Oak and Rock to the table and how you and I came to this, this project coming to fruition, because it was just a discussion for a while.
It's something we've been talking about for a long time, and I'm glad we finally decided to get it started up and have this conversation. I've been talking about peaceful parenting and becoming a better father for a long time. Same with you, right? We crossed paths, and it's just something that needed to be done. I think with your insight, your knowledge, and what I could bring to the table, we have the opportunity to help out a lot of fathers, a lot of parents, raise kids peacefully, and bring a lot of peace and enjoyment back into the home, especially in these chaotic times.
You know what's wild about that is how many times people have been like, you and Anthony, you're talking about the same thing. Isn't that competition? I'm like, my God, the scarcity runs deep. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, we're very complementary. You've been working on Peaceful Fathers, which is very focused on peaceful parenting. I've been very focused on the father being present with the family and how to give that type of presence and, prioritize the family. I think that marries up so well, it's ridiculous. It's like peanut butter and jelly, man. And I got dibs on being the peanut butter, so you're the jelly. But it just goes together. And I think when you have two individuals who are bringing a message from a very unique angle, and what I mean by that is we're two fathers who talk about being strong, being competent, being good leaders, being squared away physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, and we're talking about being peaceful. That confuses people. And I think that's what's going to separate this message, and that's why it's going to work. Because in a lot of peaceful parenting, it's dominated by women or it's dominated by men. I'm not going to say who are weak, but I will say men who don't really come across as somebody that command respect. These are a lot of men who are just trying to get along. They're sending a very safe message. Don't hate your kids. You should be kind and nice. But some of these men, you see them, and they have no other option except to be kind and nice. Because if it got hard, they wouldn't be able to show up in that level. And you and I have always taken the approach of like, look, being a strong man doesn't mean hitting your children. That doesn't make them ready for life. That doesn't toughen them up the way that so many people want it to go. So that's something I wanted to talk about too, is peaceful parenting and how the approach we're taking to it is a little different than the masses that you see out there on the mommy blogs, especially.
Yeah, no, definitely. There is a big need for masculine parenting. Um,
Yeah, no, definitely. There is.
there's something that needs to be said, right? We need a masculine perspective. We need to bring leadership back in the home. We need to have fathers being connected to their kids, being respectful and respected. There's a lot of this that is missing in society right now. And what you were saying before, there are, if we want to call them weak men who are permissive or allow their kids to do whatever they want. But there's also the other side of that is the fathers who are over controlling, abusive. And we want to look to find some middle ground that's based on principles, that's based on connection, healthy attachment, where we can teach our kids that we do care about them. And we also want to help them be prepared for the world, right? We want to give them skills and the tools that they need to survive, to have a happy and healthy life. And that's going to come from us if we implement those same practices with how we treat them. Did I lose you? All right, so we'll wait for Zach to come back. I don't know what happened to him. So we did have some questions that were brought up before this that we got submitted by everybody in the audience. Or all right, we got him back.
Yo, man, I clicked the wrong button.
That's all right. I thought it was the Wi-Fi in the jungle over there where you're living.
Listen, I'm out of the shed. I'm back into the house. I got a real office now. Look, no, you're right. We're going to dive into the questions real quick. We've got a few that are actually rolling in as we speak. Hey, one big shout out to all the people that are out there, that are watching this, because there's a lot of fathers who've been supporting what we've been doing for a long time now. We've been having this discussion in private for years. We've been talking a lot about, hey, here's what I'm doing with my family, what you're doing with your family. And inside the Fraternity of Excellence, you've been running the weekly Fatherhood Zoom since you joined. You joined and you started running with the squad, and the growth I've seen with those men was amazing. And I always said, what if we brought this to the mainstream? What if we took this and we really put this out to the world for the masses to soak that in? And in that, that sort of was the seed that grew to this. So Oak and Rock Fatherhood, why Oak and Rock? Because the oak is strong. That's what men need to be. We need to be strong. We need to be standing the winds of change. We need to have deep roots with our family. We need to be connected on levels where superficial things don't separate us. The rock, you need to be a strong individual who can literally withstand what's going on in the world. A strong mind, a strong body, a strong spirit. Our family is going to follow our example, not our advice. So when you bring two fathers who are living this from very complementary angles, my children are younger, yours are a little bit older, so you have perspectives I don't have. I have perspectives you don't have that I'm still living. Raising a 12-year-old and 9-year-old in our world is different than interacting with a later teenager and adult age children in the same world. So that perspective combined is really going to help bring a better quality product to the people. Now with that, even looking at the chat, there are a few people who have experienced the change and the growth. So big shout out to all those guys. And I'm sure we'll be popping their comments up here in a second. But again, if you have a question, a comment, whatever, feel free to throw it out there. We'll address it, because one of the things we really want to do with this channel is to give specific advice. We're going to talk broad subjects. We're going to do the general strokes as to things that we think could help people. But if you can say, hey, I'm going through this specific situation, what do you guys think? Man, we can break it down one-on-one. We can bring you onto the stream at a later date, and we can break that down. The whole point of this is to bring families together and to normalize talking about strong and peaceful families. So before we go into the questions, do you have anything else you want to throw out there, Anthony?
Yeah, of course. I think it is time for this discussion. Like we said, in the Fraternity of Excellence, this has been going on for 2 years, over 2 years now. And we've helped a lot of men improve their relationships with their kids. And it's, there's nothing more important than a father building a healthy relationship with his children. We see all the statistics. We see what's going on, how damaging it is to live in a fatherless home without a dad, without a present father. So the aim is to really help other fathers who need help, to educate, learn, and achieve some success in the home. We want to build connection. We want to build good relationships with our kids, and that takes a lot of work. So with peaceful parenting, it is it's a long and hard process that takes time and dedication. There's not only things that you have to learn to be a better parent, but there's things that you need to change about yourself. Right? You need to become a better man. You need to be more patient. You need to problem solve. There's a lot of things in yourself that you need to improve in order for this to work. It is not an easy way. It's there's definitely nothing weak about it. We're going to talk a lot of things that you probably haven't heard about. Right? We're going to give you tools and different techniques and ways to raise your kids a lot different from how you raised. And once you start implementing these practices, right, you'll see huge change, not in your kids' behavior and how they respond, but also in yourself. And a lot of that peaceful parenting, that's what that's about. It's about bringing peace to yourself so you can better lead your family.
Isn't it amazing how helping yourself better connect with your children helps you be a better individual? Like, people are looking for peace. They're looking for contentment. They're looking for happiness. but they're always looking for that elsewhere, and it's within the whole time. And I often say, if you don't know where to start with fixing yourself, start helping somebody else. Let that be the first thing you do. Go help someone else, and you'll realize in there what it is you need. But it's been 10 and a half minutes of us getting this thing rolling. Let's address the first question. And again, I'm going to throw the banner up there. Nothing is off limits. We're talking fatherhood. We're talking family. We're talking connection. If you have a question, ask. There's nothing that's too taboo or something we're not going to address. If you got it, ask it, and we'll break it down. But the first question, I've got a list, dude. So I put this out there, and oftentimes if I run like a Q&A by myself, like, oh, ask me anything. Nobody has a question. I say, oh, all right, ask me anything about parenting. Question. So it's something that I don't think people have other people to talk to in the real world, or they feel bad asking the question there. So this is anonymous for them. So let's dive right in. The first one I'm going to throw your way. Is there an age where the question is there an age where you should stop spanking? But I think the real question is, when is it no longer appropriate to spank a child?
When? Never. Yeah, that's an easy question for me. So I guess in context, I guess there's parents who spank, and then they're asking when they should stop spanking. How old?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes across as. They think, well, it's a toddler. That's okay. If they're going to burn their hand, you should spank them. If they're going to run it, that's always the examples I get, at least. They're going to do something that's going to hurt themselves. You should pull their pants down and spank them.
Yeah, I would say the age that you should stop spanking is whatever age they are right now. I would eliminate spanking from your parenting playbook as soon as possible. There's way too much evidence showing the damage that comes from spanking. And, it's a weird question, because I couldn't see how anybody would want to hit a small child, even a baby, right? I've read reports that a lot of people hit kids, their children under 1 year old. So I would definitely say, if spanking is your go-to, or the way that you're trying to discipline your child, you definitely need to make changes. You're not going to get the results you want long term. You might get short-term compliance, but long term, I think there's way too many damaging effects of spanking a child. And it's not just because of the physical hitting, right? The force, or pulling down their pants and smacking them on the butt. That's not really what hurts the child the most. It's the psychological aspect. It's the fear, right? You have your father who's supposed to love you and be your protector, and they're breaking that trust. They're breaking that bond by physically hitting you and causing you to be in pain and fear, just so you would listen, or because you did something wrong. So we really shouldn't ever treat anybody that we care about that way.
Well, that's the thing too, and I think it needs to be made very abruptly, put in people's face. You're not doing your child a disservice by not hitting them. And I think that's a part of it. I think some fathers think, if I don't do this, they're going to hurt themselves worse in the world, or the world's going to hurt them even worse. So if I cause this controlled pain now, they won't experience uncontrolled pain by the world. But there are other ways to do it. Spanking, the biggest thing that really stands out, and I learned from you, Anthony, is how ineffective it is. You spank a kid, he'll go out and just do it again, or he'll find a different way to do it. They never learned the lesson as to why what they were doing was wrong. And that's the problem.
Yeah, there's always better ways.
So that's the thing. You can still give your child the protection they need. You can still teach them lessons about the world, and you can prepare them for the hardships of the world without bringing that hardship through yourself. You don't need to be the vaccination against the evil of the world. You can just strengthen their immune system through training, through proper connection within the home. And you can make it so bright inside that home that the darkness can't touch them. They carry that brightness that you put inside them out into the world. And they are their own source of energy. They're their own generator of what is light and what is good. And it doesn't have to be spanking that's going to, all right, because I hurt you, now you're ready for them to hurt you. No, because I connected to you, you know how to connect with yourself. So nobody else out there can hurt you. And when they try to, you're strong enough to stand against them.
Yeah. Oh, well, and the other thing that we get often is the respect aspect, right? We think that hitting our child and making them fearful is somehow giving us respect, right? We're the dad, we're bigger, we're in charge. If that's the way you go about parenting, you're going to have a lot of complications when your child gets bigger. right? When your child is bigger than you, stronger than you, one day it will happen, but you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to teach them that might makes right, because not only is it bad for the relationship, but you might get some karma down the road.
Well, think about what you're saying. How many men, I want my wife to respect me. Oh, go hit her. I want my boss to respect me. Oh, go hit him too. No, you're not going to command respect by swinging at all these people and asserting your dominance via physical force. That's not how that works. If you want to command respect in others, then you inspire respect in others. You make people want to follow you. Like, oh man, my dad, he works hard. He's always breaking things down to me and showing me this and that. I want to follow him. That's what a good man is. My dad's a happy person. If you're angry and you're smashing things, your kids don't want to be you. They don't want to be like you. You're bitter. They want to be anything but you. And for anybody that says, well, that's not me, I have worked with thousands of men. I've been doing this for 6 years now. Fathers, overbearing fathers, do a lot of damage. And just because you didn't turn out like a crackhead doesn't mean you turned out all right. I certainly hate when, guys come at me. Well, I turned out fine and that was spanked. Bro, you're hiring me to be your coach because there's a lot wrong in your life. And it's not just professional level guys looking to elevate. That's a certain group that I work with. A lot of it is men trying to find their way out of the hole of despair they found themselves in. Because dad was overbearing, mom wasn't there, and they didn't learn how to not be a people pleaser because they operated through life from a position of trying to keep people happy. That's what you're putting your kids through when you start spanking them at toddler. So there is no age where you stop hitting your kids. Like you said, whatever the ages they are today, after watching this video, if you don't stop now, you're not listening.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more spanking.
Does that answer that question?
I'm sure there's going to be more spanking questions. It's a big topic. And I think it's evidence, or it shows how we do struggle as parents, right? To resort to such a barbaric or uncivilized tactic to raise our kids. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of, tired parents out there who don't know what to do. And, that's the hope with this show, is we can start giving dads, even parents, these tools that, they definitely can improve their parenting. We can become more effective. It's really leadership skills. It's about becoming a better leader in the home, and just making self-improvement. And we want to make sure we're not dumping our garbage on our kids. That's the main thing.
I have to give a big shout out to Tex for this one. Parenting A to Z, Anthony and Zac. I love it. We'll have to co-author a book on that one. I dig it. All right, listen, next question. This is a good one because it is a little trickier. What if my wife thinks we should still spank? I don't think I've had that asked. We did cover in a video, what do I do if we're divorced and I'm doing peaceful parenting and my ex is not? We've covered that, and that video will be dropping shortly on the Oak and Rock channel. But what if you're still married and your wife was brought up where spanking and corporal punishment is the norm and you're trying to go a different way? Have you ever had to work with anybody or a relationship like that?
Usually it's the father who's spanking and the wife isn't. I would say more times, but no, you do occasionally get something like this where the parenting techniques or the ways that we go about parenting aren't, the two parents don't see eye to eye. And I would say if the wife wants to hit your kids, if that's her way of disciplining, and you are the father, you're the husband, I would say first you have to stand up and protect your kids first and foremost. I don't care who it's from, right? Even if it is your wife. I would definitely say that a job and a duty as a father, the role of the father is to protect his kids first and foremost, right? Safety, security, providing for them. So where I would start is I would have a serious conversation with my wife. I would sit her down and I would say, hey, listen, we need to talk about how we're parenting our kids. And I'm not going to allow this anymore. I need you to be on the same page with me. And I would, before I approach that though, I would definitely have some ammunition, right? Some facts and some truth about why. I wouldn't just go at it cold. I would definitely give her some good evidence, have a good argument about why we shouldn't do it and what the goal is. I think if you're in a committed relationship with a good woman that you're building a family with, you guys have to have these conversations. They have to be a part of what you talk about, and you have to figure it out. And I think it's always good to stand your ground on something that you strongly and firmly believe.
Well, that's the point of marriage, is it not? You know, like you are two individuals, and I'm all about, it's the family alpha, dude. This is what I talk about. You and I have strong marriages. We are still with, we're running the nuclear, image. We're married, we have kids, we're doing our thing, and we've been doing it for a long time. Well, why does that work? Well, because we're two individuals that are still working on improving ourselves, and we're working together. So that comes with some compromises. Every now and then you got to say, you know what, I kind of see your side on this. Let's try it your way. All right, here's what I see. Come on over here. Like this, I really think this is where we should be going. Come check it out. When you built a healthy relationship with your woman, she'll trust you because you've proven time after time after time that when she's like, yeah, let's try it your way, and your way works, that you've got what's best in mind for the family. But also when you listen to her, that you're showing you're not some tyrant saying, do it my way or the highway. Like, no, it's a give and take. And if you're like, hey, I understand you want to run a tight ship and you were raised this way and we used to parent this way. And I always try to keep privacy at top of priorities when it comes to FOE. This is a man inside the fraternity of excellence who, when he joined, was exposed to you. He joined a Fatherhood Zoom, and it's the first time he's like, oh, I've never realized my spanking was doing damage. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was teaching discipline and grit and things like that. He's like, but now I'm changing my ways because I realized I was doing it wrong. But that's upsetting kind of the dynamic and the dance he's doing with his wife because he's changing the script. And she said, we've been operating this way for so long. So this man is now trying to change the rules of the relationship, and he's trying to figure the best way to do that. And honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head. You make it work together and you let her know why. Hey, this is what I've discovered, and I want to share this with you. This is an us thing. We are going to be better parents by doing this. And then when she can see it, it's almost like she comes to the conclusion on her own. She's like, oh, through what you gave me the input, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to trust you, husband. I'm going to follow you. We're going to try this out. And I think that she'll see, in the relationship, when you work together and you guys work back and forth, it's not just compromising on bills, compromising on where you're going to vacation. Sometimes it's, hey, we've got to improve and evolve as parents. So while you're working together to be a better person and yourself for your spouse, you've also got to be a better person for your children. You should always be looking to improve. And I learned quite a bit when I crossed paths with you because I thought I was locked in. I didn't realize what I didn't realize. I didn't know what I didn't know. And one of the things you said is, Zac, you've read this much about how many business books have you read? How many fitness books have you read? And I'm like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. How many parenting books have you read? I didn't have an answer. And I was like, that's embarrassing. I've read some blogs, but I've never read a book on literally the greatest role I'll play in the life of a human being. Why is that? And I think we don't ever try to evolve as parents. So it is somewhat of a foreign concept to present to your spouse. But I think if you do it tactfully, you can win her over.
Yeah. And that's the key, though. You have to learn and you have to improve, right? That's every relationship that I have in my life is me raising my standards and becoming better, and having the people in my life also raise their standards. That doesn't stop with my wife, with my kids. We're looking to improve all the time. And I think what happens when you don't, right, when you become complacent or get stuck in traditional ways, it's like walking through a dark cave and you're just knocking down cobwebs. All of a sudden, those cobwebs become chains, and they're holding you down from real growth, right? You're screaming, yelling at your kid, you're beating them, you're fighting with the wife, and your house is not at peace, right? It's filled with anger, frustration. You build up resentment. Your kids hate you because you never listen to them, you never talk to them, right? Everything's pointing out what they do wrong. So it's important to learn in every aspect of your life, whether it's fitness, nutrition, whether you want to make more money, and especially if you want to become a better parent, right? That's one key area where we all need to improve, because I can guarantee you that most of us did not come from the best of households. We probably all endured some kind of neglect, physical, emotional abuse. So we always got to look to get past those wounds and improve.
Did you grow up in a home with corporal punishment?
I did not. Oddly enough, right? The advocate against spanking and and supporting peaceful parenting. No, I did not. I grew up. My parents were really good, and I grew up seeing it around everywhere I was. Right. I lived in a home where I would say it was pretty peaceful. Right. We had our problems, um, like every family. You know, we had our dysfunction, but I saw what was going around as a kid, and all my friends who were getting beaten, were getting punished, bars of soap in their mouth. It just made me always wonder, why would somebody want to torment their child so much? Why would they want to cause their child so much pain? And I'm sure that's how my kids, felt in a similar way, or growing up. You'd be amazed at how many parents still hit their kids, even grown children. And I'm talking grown from like 18 to 25. I've heard stories that they'll still get smacked or treated like shit.
It's when you say it like that, it's so blunt, and people are like, "Oh," but when it still happens, like when it's
Yeah.
happening in the moment, they don't see it like that, and it's one of those things where, is it cultural? Is it passed down? Is it tradition? And I know that sounds weird, but is it just a tradition? My parent hit him, he hit him, he hit him. I grew up in a house with corporal punishment, but I will say, my dad. It's funny. My dad says one of his things is he always wanted us to be better off than himself. The way he was brought up was far harder than the way we were brought up. So while we did have corporal punishment, it was much less severe than what he had. So it was like less. And then the way I see that evolution is me. So he passed that to me less so, and now I'm giving my kids less so, to the point of 0. There is no corporal punishment. Discipline it's a weird thing in here. Like, it has nothing to do with physical violence at all. It's long conversations and sitting down. It's
Influence. Influence works best.
Yeah, but it's something we're going to dive into more. I 100% guarantee that. So again, if you want to see more breakdowns, subscribe to the channel, because we'll have plenty to say on it. All right. This is a good question, and it is one that I've run into, and I think you've run into as well. How do you tell old school grandparents that you're no longer hitting your kids? Dude, that's a thing, man. When they come in and the old grandma, she's ready to whoop some ass, and you're like, "Oh no, we don't do that anymore." And she's like, "What do you mean?" Like, it's such a foreign concept to them, because they're a degree removed. Like we were just talking about the spouse, they're like another element away. So now you've got to sit. Do you sit down and have a family meeting? What do you recommend people do when they're changing the way where it's generational ass whoopings being handed down to your children?
Yeah, well, to be clear, this there's a little gray area with this, right? A lot of people, they see like new age parenting, and you see a lot of people say, "Oh, use your words," and they try to relate to kids that way. To me, that's all nonsense, right? What matters is really being able to communicate, to understand and empathize with your kid, and it's not always about giving into them. So when I think about the grandparents punishing or abusing my kids, it's not about that I have this newfound, way to parent, and their way is outdated. It's more about, we don't abuse people, and I make that point clear, right? We don't abuse people, whether it's physical hitting, whether it's trying to manipulate my kids. If you want a good relationship with my children, you have to earn it, right? You have to earn their trust. You have to be kind. You have to be compassionate, and you have to really show them that they care. My kids aren't going to fall for the tricks, right? They're not going to be bribed, or they're not going to be manipulated to feel bad because they didn't give grandma a kiss. So it's important to have boundaries, and I think if you can set boundaries with your parents or the grandparents, that will show your kids that they can also set boundaries. So whenever there is an instance where there might be some breach of physical boundaries, your kids can push back, right? They say, "No, grandma, I don't want you to hit me. I don't like that. I don't," or they can come tell me, and we can have a conversation about it. I don't think it has to be a huge issue, but I think it's more about setting healthy boundaries and letting your kids know how people who care about them, how they should be treated.
I agree with a lot of that. I think a part I would add to it is sometimes it might be best to get ahead of it. If you're changing the dynamic in your family within your home and you're going to, let's say, a cookout, or you're going somewhere where extended family might view you or have an expectation as to how your family operates and it's changed, it's okay to have that conversation before it's brought to light. Oh, hey, yeah, we started trying something new with little Johnny. We're doing things a little different. We're doing it this way. It's actually worked out really well. Have you noticed that he's doing X, Y, Z? And it's just a super light conversation. It's not very direct, but in that same sense, you're addressing it and like, hey, this is where we stand. This is what we're doing now. Now that fall in line. Like, here's how we're operating. If you have an issue with it, come to me. If you want to operate differently, come to me. But this is what we're doing with our kid moving forward. And it goes back to your point on boundaries. I don't let my wife hit me. I don't let my kids hit me. Why would I ever let anybody else hit my wife or hit my kids? That's not a difficult thing. I don't think that's a difficult concept for any of us to grasp. But when you apply it to children, your parents don't get special privileges. They're your parents. Obviously respect them, but that doesn't mean that you bow down to them. You do not submit your parental authority to your parents. They raised you. It's not their job to raise your kids. That's your job. And if you're doing it differently, so be it. And that's just the way it is. There's no, I don't see any real discussion there. Now, that doesn't mean be an asshole. Maybe they want to have good advice. Hey, well, you really should try this or try that. Okay. Yeah, thanks for talking to me, Mom, Dad. Appreciate that. I'll look into that and we'll see. Maybe that is the right move. It's about coming together, though. If you're trying to bring peace and unity within your home, don't do so at the point of putting pitchforks against the world. If you have family who are trying to help, understand, hey, I understand you're trying to help, but here's why we're doing what we're doing. And maybe show them behind the curtain a little.
Yeah, definitely. In the same regards to how you communicate with your kid, right? It's not just our children, it's everybody we have a relationship with. We want to be able to have good communication and get our points across and share ideas. Definitely nothing wrong with that. I will say that just to add on to the conversation, not the specific topic, but the more men that I speak to, and I get them to eliminate spanking as a form of discipline. The stories that I hear about how well connected they become with their children after that, right? How their kids seem so much more happier, how they're responding better, how maybe there's things that bothered them before. They had anxiety or they had these worries all the time. Once you remove that's one simple thing you can remove is spanking, is hitting your kid. I don't care if it's corporal punishment, hitting, spanking. If you remove it, you will see drastic changes in the behavior of your children. And I think that we can take it a step further with the next question. So I'm going to let you start it off with this one, because this is something that I don't do. But what do you use to discipline your children?
What do you mean it's something you don't do?
I don't discipline my kids.
I do. I talk to them a lot. When people say, oh, what do you do with your kids? What if they're going crazy? I'm like, my kids don't go crazy. It's kind of foreign to me. Well, what do you do if your kids be a psycho running around? They don't do that, because I have a pretty solid relationship, and we've spoken about how do you just conduct yourself as an individual when you're out to eat. And if
built it beforehand,
dude, but even when they were little, like toddlers, if my son was freaking out, I wouldn't, damn it, and smack him, like, behave. Now you're happy that no, like, what are you doing? I would pick him up and I'd go for a walk. Or Jackie, she would grab one of them and we'd go for a walk, or we'd walk around the restaurant with them. We would take our child who is being a child out of the situation, because look, this is adult time. We brought our kid to be a part of your adult time, but my 2-year-old isn't going to maintain the same demeanor as all of you 30-year-olds hanging out. Like, that's not how that works. And there's nothing wrong with a kid not fitting in with adults. He's a kid. And I think people forget that. A child, my kid should sit and do all. Your kid's a kid, man. When we go to cookouts, I find myself more outside of the yard throwing a ball around than I do wanting to sit there and just watch football or anything like that. I'd rather go be with the kids. I'd rather go do that, because they're out and they're having fun. That doesn't change when you take them out of that situation. You put them in a wedding, or you put them in a restaurant or something like that. They still are operating on that level. Now you can explain to them, hey, we're going to sit down, and I do this talk prior to the cookout. hey, going out to eat. We're going to sit down, guys. It's going to be like an hour. We're going to sit, we're going to hang out. We're going to see your aunt, your uncle, or whomever. We'll sit, we'll get our meal, hang out, sit next to me. You know, I got a couple of jokes that I want to tell you. Like, I just kind of pregame it to where I know my kids will sit and listen. Now, let's say they break some rules at home. So, like, one of the things recently I was talking to you about is time on electronics. You know, it was unlimited. Do what you got to do. Just make sure you do it right. And then they started staying up too late or watching it when they should be sleeping. I'm like, all right, that's not working. So there was no yelling, there was no spanking, there was no violence. But I did instill like, hey, you're going to leave your electronics out here. You're not going to bring them to the room. You know, at night when it's bedtime, just go to bed, leave your stuff out here. And one of the things that in the back of my mind is my goal here is to teach them to have it in their room and just not use it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're there yet. And so that's something, so that's something we're still working on. But there was no, and I had actually spoken to you privately about this. I felt in me that urge to want to get mad. Like the way my father would have responded, like that almost came out of me. I was like, man, like, come on, dude. Like you got your total freedom. Why would you break that? But I realized like, no, like he's just a kid. And you know what?
Well, they need that
he's
stability.
A kid who wants to watch baseball.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you threw a bag of candy in front of him, right? He'll eat it until his stomach hurts. Sometimes you need dad to say, hey, just have a few pieces.
Yeah. You know, and it's not the end of the world. People get real dramatic when they talk about not disciplining kids because they always go to the worst case scenario. Like your kids are little banshees running around. When you have a peaceful home, you've already done the work. Like you've already got your children to the point where they don't want to be psychos. And what's funny, before I toss this to you, because I'm definitely on the soapbox right now, but the kids who are the worst behaved that I know all get hit.
Yeah, they receive
every single one of
the
them.
harshest discipline.
Every single one of them are hit, and they're the worst behaved. And I'm just like, I don't hit my kids, and they're sitting here. I say it every time because I'm super proud of them. We are complimented every single time we go out to eat because they sit there. Hello, how are you doing? I'll have this. May I have a club soda and cranberry? My 9-year-old daughter, my son. Oh, I would like a club soda and pineapple. Thank you. You know, like they're like these little adults that are just growing up, you know? And then you got the kid who's getting spanked all the time. Give me a Sprite. Come on, dude.
No, that's awesome, man. But it is a testament to the man, the father who you are, right? If you can take the time, you can be patient, and you can teach your kids how to do things on their own. That's the best role that a father can take, right? We don't want to constantly be hovering over our kids and telling them what to do and how to do everything. We want them to be resilient. We want them to have this motivation without us always pointing it out. And that doesn't happen from hitting them or punishing them, right? They don't learn anything. All they learn is I messed up. I'm a bad kid, right? Dad doesn't like me. Mom's mad at me. So it's important to take those steps. So when I said I don't discipline my kids, I use the twisted language that we use in this world now. Is a lot of people equate discipline with punishment, right? To me, discipline is teaching, right? Where it goes back to the disciples. Those were people that we taught, right? People that learned from us. So it's important to recognize that, with my kids, I don't punish them. They haven't been punished in almost 2 decades now. And do they listen to everything I say? Do they do everything I want them to do? Of course not. But when we have problems, when we have conflicts, we work them out. And like you said, this happened from years and years and years of me communicating properly, me having the patience, me having the courage to sit back and say, hey, you know what? I don't like the dad that I'm becoming or the dad that I am. I don't want to scream and yell. I don't want to feel this anger every time my child says no to me, especially when they're younger. Children don't even, they don't know what the word no means. They're not doing it out of defiance. It's just a word they learned. And it's their way to maybe set a boundary sometimes. But, you can't take things personally. You can't get upset if your child disobeys you. To a degree, we don't want them to never question anything. We want them to ask questions like why, how come, we want them to be curious, and we want them to even question authority. And I'm not going to get into what's going on in the world today, but we want to raise kids who are strong, confident, and when they're ready, they don't need us, right? They can go out on their own. They can make their own families. They can provide for themselves, have their own job, have their own money. That's what we really want. We want them to be happy, successful. But when they're young, if we're never giving them those tools and we're never giving them the time to nourish them and attach them in good, productive ways, they're gonna be empty. They're gonna be shallow. They're gonna be depressed. They're gonna have issues, because all they saw was abuse, physically and emotionally.
Well, you never want your child to make their entire basis of what makes them good or bad based upon how you view them. You know, your self-worth is not, I'm good if I make dad happy. No. That could not be further from the truth. You know, you do what makes you happy and you do your thing. And I will look forward to leading you throughout this life. You know, and sometimes they'll do, I never played baseball. My kid wanted to play baseball. He played years of baseball. I coached him. That's the literal example I always fall to is the dads who always say, you have to be like me. You got to do this. You got to do that. No, man. Let your children be who they are and don't put so much fear in them that they're afraid to be who they think you don't want them to be. Let them be who they are. Give your child that gift, you know, and again, that comes with removing the violence and the fear. And look, we do see it a lot. We'll save that for another stream though, because there's a lot in the world we can bring back to corporal punishment in the home.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Here's one. Another question. How do you talk to your children about their friends' parents who spank? So earlier you brought up that it's weird. It was weird for you to why would these people want to hit their kids? And your children probably saw that, and mine see it now. You know, we moved to North Carolina. It's a lot more open here. You know, and I've only been here a month, and I've already kind of seen all right, this is how they do things around here, and my kids are going to see that, and I'm sure eventually they're going to just directly ask me. They haven't yet, but kind of like in a roundabout way, they brought it up. So I'm wondering how, with your kids being older, when you do cross those hills and they do ask those questions, I'm asking for myself as much as the people in the chat. Did you have those discussions and explain hey, they just operate differently than us?
Differently. So the conversations I have, we still have conversations about, violent parenting, physical abuse, because ultimately I don't want my kids to ever be in a relationship where they accept physical violence from a spouse, a boyfriend, or a girlfriend. I don't want them to ever be in that position. I want them to know that it's wrong, right? Nobody ever hits you. They don't ever get to hit you. And if they do, you fight like hell back, right? But it's not a relationship that you want to build with people. So I don't, because we didn't do it in my home, because my kids didn't get spanked, they didn't get hit. They understand that it's wrong, right? I wasn't hitting my kids, causing them pain and fear, and then saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I love you," right? We weren't creating Stockholm syndrome in my house, where you sympathize with your abuser. And because of that, now that they're older, I have conversations, and I would say honestly that the one thing we do talk about often is we talk about how other kids are very violent, especially in school. There's a lot of children who are reactive. There's a lot of kids who bury their pain, right? Their emotional pain. There's a lot of kids who go through trauma who don't know how to deal with it. And the reason being is because if you're a grown man and you have pain that you're dealing with, there's places you can go, right? That you can go see a therapist. You can go join a men's group. If you're a woman, you can go to a therapist, women's support groups. If you're a child and you're getting hit, there's nowhere you can go, right? There's not a lot of people advocating for stop hitting kids. It's just, there's no support for it. So getting back to the question, the one thing I do point out with my kids is I tell them how fortunate they are, right? How their brains are going to work. They're going to see the world differently than a lot of other people, because there's shit that they're not going to have to deal with, that when their brains were developing, they weren't getting hit. And they're going to have a better opportunity. So they better make the most of it, right? They better try to be as successful as they can, as happy as they can, and they'll have the ability to help people. And I truly believe that there are people who make it out of the darkest places, That's a small percentage, right? If 90% of kids are getting hit, maybe 1% will make it out and be somebody amazing. But if you have that opportunity where you can see to a certain capacity, right, where you can understand that I'm going to take care of myself, I'm going to become a better person and stronger, I'm going to go help other people. That's kind of the route I go with my kids, right? I tell them that they need to be as best they can because they have this great opportunity in life where they don't have to heal from their from their childhood trauma. So they're in an advantage, and I want them to keep going as hard and fast as they can forward.
That was very well said. You know, when I look at it and I kind of envision these other kids, that's one of the more painful sides of this whole discussion is when you really think about what's going on from the child's perspective. You know, the monster, the boogeyman, the thing you're afraid of is the thing that you live with. You're in the home. You have nowhere to go. A spouse can leave. If a husband's beating a spouse, you know, she can leave. And there's a lot of support. When you're hitting your kids, they have nowhere to go. They run to their room, you're there. They run into the kitchen, you're there. They run outside, you're there. They run away, somebody else brings them back to you, and then you're more angry. It's just really sad to see that going down. And again, it's one of those things where I've told my kids why. I was like, there's no reason. There's no reason I would ever want to hit you. You know, I just don't understand why people do it. You know, and it's one of those things where I'm one of those reform stories. I was brought up that way, you know, and that I chose not to follow that path. And it just didn't sit right with me from the very beginning. And I think a lot of parents, and we've spoken to this before, but I think we've spoken everything before. We've talked about this a lot. That's why we're doing this, man. Like, we got to bring the awareness to the masses. But I'm tired of talking to you in private. It's good that we're doing this publicly.
Yes.
It's that, you know, when you're sitting there and you're really breaking it down, a lot of the people who are still spanking their kids, as a kid, were like, I would never do that. I will not hit my kids. But then something along the way, it just sort of manifested itself. They just didn't know how else to respond. And, you know, when you're a new dad and that kid's crying or doing the thing you don't want it to do, and you're frustrated, you're tired, you got back from work, you're dealing with the wife, she's sore, she just had a baby. Like, there's just so much to it that you just let it out. And it's like, that just becomes a habit. Yeah. I have to release this, and pow. Well, what did the kid really do? He was a kid. He wanted something. He didn't know how to tell you, so he cried. Hit. He spilt something because he's an uncoordinated little drunk adult. That's like what little kids are. Hit him. Pow. And it just becomes a habit. You know, I make light of it, you know, like all little drunk humans, but it's seriously. Yeah. You're hitting a kid for being a kid. Like, and now it's just a habit. And now the person who said, I'll never hit my kids, hits their kids. And the cycle continues. And it's like poverty. It's like obesity. It's once you're in that loop, you just pass it on. You pass it on until someone says enough. And it's my hope that through this and through Oak and Rock and for the many things we'll be bringing to the table, the tools and resources we're bringing to the table, it'll help more people remember why they had initially said, I'll never hit my kids. Maybe they can go back to that guy and they can try to pull that back out. And you know what? I'm done. Enough. And that's when you can look at your child. I'm sorry. I was wrong. And I don't want to be like this anymore. I want us to be better.
And we have a lot of work to get there, man. A lot of work.
It's worth it.
It's hard to escape. Absolutely. It's worth it. It's hard to escape. And, you know, I know you said you had a question, Jimmy G, but before we get to him, he could wait. No, you brought up obesity and, you know, all the things that plague kids nowadays. And I really believe a lot of it is correlated to the abuse and the trauma that these kids are going through at young ages. It's not coincidence that almost over 80% of kids in America get hit. And we have this obesity epidemic. We have problems with youth suicide, addiction. So I do believe that if we really care about our kids, we have to really start looking at how we raise them, right? Stop focusing on all the external things. What is going on in your house? That's where we can fix.
You know, when you look at, I'm just going to keep talking over him. No, I'm just kidding. Jimmy, I'm going to throw it up there. His question: what are some ways men can control their emotions when dealing with their kids? I'll jump on this one first. I feel like I've been throwing a lot your way. Dealing with your emotions. So first is identifying what's going on, you know, just getting ahead of it. So if you know, like, man, I've had a rough day, don't drive immediately home from work to dive into the fray. Take your time to really detox. So instead of going, I had a rough day at work, and now let me check my phone and scroll through the news and then breathe. You had a long day at work. It was tough. Turn the radio off, put the windows down, cruise home and detox. And remember, you're going into a place that loves you. You're going into a place that is looking forward to you being there. They are not going to try to being annoying. So when you want to go in and kick your feet up, there's a reason they say heavy's the head that wears the crown. You got to go in with that smile, because those kids, right when you get in there, hey, look what I did at school. Hey, check out my drawing. And you're like overloaded, and you just got to suck it up. You got to be like, you know what, guys? Thank you. And you can kind of find fuel in the family. Another one is to let them know, is to be like, hey, guys, I got to step away for a minute. There's just a lot going on right now. I'm going to come back to this, but can we address this in a second? And context depending, obviously. But there are some times where we've had some online things going on, and the kids and stuff are going on, and I'm trying to not get irritated. So I'm like, hey guys, I need a minute. And they're not used to that, because I'm always like, yeah, let's go do whatever. But sometimes it's time for a hard boundary. Like, hey, no, I need some silence for the next 10 minutes, and then I'll go see you. But here's the thing. You have to follow up on that. If you said 10 minutes, go out there in 10 minutes. And I've been on the other side of that. Hey, give me 5 minutes. An hour goes by because I got lost in what I was doing. And I was like, man, those kids, they waited and waited. And they're like, nah, dad's not coming out. And dude, that breaks my heart to know I did that to them. And I've done it a few times, but it's happened to where I know now, no, if I say it, I do it. Hey, 10 minutes, I'll set an alarm. This can wait. This is just the internet. Those are my children. Yeah, this gets 10 minutes. I'm going to go do that thing next. And then the last one is obviously communication. Hey guys, I really don't like you when you do that. Could you please stop? Instead of just like sucking it up and they just do it, and then you build and it builds and it builds and you erupt. Dude, address it after the second time they do it. A lot of guys try to hold it in and be Mr. Machismo, and then they become a volcano and they blow up on the family. If you had just told them the second or third time, hey guys, like, that's really, like, please stop doing that. I don't like that. Cool. Dude, they'll go do something else. Give them something else to do instead of what they're doing that annoying you. So those are just a few ways that I have found for myself, at least, to keep myself from hitting that super stressed out level, like level 10 eruption.
No, it was all good things that dad should be doing. Absolutely. I would say to control your emotions. I don't know if you really can control your emotions, but like you just pointed out, you can work on making them better, right? Not overreacting. I always say respond is greater. Responding is greater than reacting. But with your emotions, I would say, let me see if I figure this out.
Isn't this good live where they put you in the hot seat? Like, you have to answer while they're looking at you.
No, I want to give an answer better than yours.
Good luck.
No, I think you have to be honest. Honest with the man that you want to be, right? The father that you want to become. And that means taking a good look at yourself. And we'll use the example of coming home from work and you're stressed out. The moment you went to that door, is that the man you want to be? If you're irritated and frustrated and you feel like shit, is that who you want to show your kids? Is that who you really are? And I think when you can be honest with that, that's when you can start to do the work to improve, right? Implement some of the practices that you just mentioned. And I think to me, it's as simple as that. It's just being honest with who you really want to be, right? Don't lie to yourself. Don't say I'm a good dad. Oh, I got my shit together. I'm a cool dude. And then you come in and you blow off steam on your kids and dump all your shit on them. Live up, own it. Own those mistakes. Don't lie. One thing you said though about the 5-minute thing, the 10-minute thing, I think that's a trait that's learned in childhood, right? It's procrastination. And I see it all the time with parents. I used to see it with my kids until I learned how to combat it a little better. But you always tell your kids to do something and they're like, 1 minute, okay, 1 minute. And 1 minute turns into 5 minutes and 5 minutes turns into 10. I see this with husbands and their wives. The wife will be like, can you take out the garbage? And I'm not going to lie, I'm guilty of it sometimes too, right? We all have these procrastination tendencies. And I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it in 5 minutes, or I'll throw out the garbage in 10 minutes. So I think we need to be aware of why you're doing it, right? And be a man of integrity. Like you said, if I tell my kids 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'm gone. I'm doing it in 10 minutes. So if you can do it as a father with them, it's going to be a skill that they learn, and they won't procrastinate. And you tell your son, hey, can you go clean up your toys? He's not going to do it to you. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be like, all right, Dad, in 5 minutes. He's either going to tell you a time when he can do it. And that's another part of parenting negotiation. We'll have a video on that. But if he says, Dad, I'll clean up my toys in a half hour, and you say, okay, good, he's going to hold to it, because he hasn't been seeing the procrastination that his parents do. So that's a really good acquired skill that they can learn from you.
You know, it's interesting. We talk a lot about they follow our example, not our advice. Also, I don't know if that was better than my answer. It was all right.
Probably
but
not.
It's true, man. You know, guys say, I'm the leader. I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm just, follow me. I'm the captain. Dude, where are you going? Because I don't want to be on that ship. You've got to be a good dude who's going to great places for people to want to follow you and to want to be a part of what it is you're doing. Nobody wants to be a part of the ship where the captain's beating the crew. The beatings continue till morale improves. That's a funny shirt. That's not real life, though. The kids hide the pain. They learn how to hide it. They learn how to hide the fear. But it's in the eyes. It's in their actions. You can see it in them. And that's not what we're a part of. We're trying to be better than that. When we talk about, being great men, we're talking about in the actualized objective sense. A great man has children. If this man has children, these children look up to that man. They want to be like him. They want to follow where it is he's going. They want to be a part of what it is he's doing. I don't want my kids to want to, I can't wait till I'm 18 and out of the house, or I look forward to when I'm 18, I'm going to go and do these things. I can't wait to come see you. If they're going to go out, I want to be the man they want to come and see, not ones they feel obligated to come and see. And I think I stole that from you, so I'll give you credit there. You want to be the dad your kids want to go and see when they move out of the house. You want to be the man. You're like, I don't want my wife to feel obligated, to come and sit next to me on the couch. I want to be able to sit down and she wants to come sit near me. And I think a lot of men, that's what they want. And with marriage, I think, all men want is sex. And I always say, I think it's lust. I think they want their woman to desire them more than the actual act. I think with children, that level of respect, it's different. You don't just want your kids to be disciplined. You want them to genuinely respect, and you want them to love you. You want to be a good person in their eyes. You want someone to be someone they look up to. I would assume, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to live a life and be a person that my kids are like, oh, that's cool. That's my dad. Like, awesome. Like, what dad would not be proud to have a kid proud of them? That's just foreign to me to not want that.
It's their natural instinct to want to be with their parents. I think even when we abuse them.
Well, I was just going to say, I was like, in that too, I think even when you're hitting them, they still want to love you.
Yeah.
But I think you can beat that love out of them. And that sounds horrible to say, but it's, when you think about it, man, it's like, why would you want to bring that? You have an opportunity to do better. And again, we're closing in on our hour live session. I don't see any more questions coming about it. So it truly is one of those things where that's the point of this. That's why Oak and Rock exists. This is our inaugural. This will be like the prelim. When we launch it on the other channel, that'll be the official launch. But this is a good, breaking ice. And then we'll be breaking the champagne bottle on the ship and, sending it out to sea, on our next video. But honestly, it's in these discussions that people are going to find their way. And we'll have guests on. We'll have, more engagement with the chat and, bring guys up. But it really comes down to the action taken after this. So like when we shut this down and Anthony goes to his family, I go to my family, that's where the real work is being done. Because that's the real world reps. Right now, it's just him and I swapping notes and having a discussion and engaging the chat. Guys like Jimmy G, big shout out for dropping the question. Appreciate that. It's guys like that who, hey, how do I control my emotions with the kids? Hey, try this. And then we end this session and they go and apply it. They go and try to, all right, the next time I'm frustrated Anthony said, actually, it was Zac that said the great thing. Zac said, go try this. And then he goes and tries it. And then, they're like, oh, that worked. Or like you were saying, when they go there, they don't let it bill. Hey, 5 minutes is 5 minutes. I'm not going to be the dude who 5 minutes turns into an hour anymore. Dude, I literally set alarms to remind myself because I'll get caught in writing. And it's just a thing I do. So, but the alarm goes off. It's e-break. I'm going outside to play catch. Because it's the presence that you give them. That's what they're going to remember. If you keep withholding that and you keep skipping it, you're a dude who lies. You're not true to your word. So why should they be?
Yeah, man. It's important what we're doing, brother. These conversations, they need to be had.
Now we got a bunch of people looking at us while we have them. Let's keep it rolling.
That's
man,
good.
I am very excited to kick this off. And genuinely, I've learned a lot, and I'm really looking forward to mixing it up because I think we got a lot to say. There's quite a bit to cover, a lot of ground, and I don't know if we'll ever reach the end, so we'll just keep running with it. Let's just keep going as far as we can. But again, listen, if you enjoy what we're doing here, if you like the content, you like the discussion, in the description is a link to the main channel we'll be operating off of, as well as Anthony and I's social media. And then obviously, if you want to get the access to Anthony's weekly call that he's running inside FOE and the Fraternity of Excellence, we have Fatherhood call, and you can get one-on-one with Anthony. There is a link in the description for that too. So just hit him up, and then you can have a chat with the man himself. It is worth it. I have taken advantage of it myself. And honestly, I thought I had myself figured out and squared away, and I learned quite a bit. So it's a good investment. There's no greater investment than yourself and your family. So Anthony, before we wrap this one up, any final words? Anything you want to share with the good people, the good fathers listening?
I'll share one important lesson that I learned in the last 23 years of being a dad. I started to see great changes in myself when I stopped putting my needs first and realized as a father, I have to put the needs of my children first. And it's tough to realize, tough to understand until I really started taking care of myself, right? Until I really made myself priority, whether that was getting in better shape, educating myself, reading books, just being a better person, living with virtue. Then I was able to not be so needy and not always demand things of my kids. So when my kids would have problems, I wouldn't have to lash out. I wouldn't have to think that they were doing this in spite of me, or they were just doing this to defy me. I didn't take it personal. So all the fathers out there who are going through hard times, difficult, areas of parenting, and you have disobedient kids, they're not listening. And you say, I've tried this thing, I've tried that thing, and you're still getting the same bad results. You really do have to stick with it. Find stuff that is effective, things that work, things that we talk about, peaceful parenting, positive parenting, and start really understanding the role as a father is your job to take care of your child's needs. It doesn't work the other way around. If you are relying on your kids to fulfill something that's missing in you, there's going to be a lot of pain in the family. So work to become a stronger man. This way you can help guide your family and your children to becoming stronger as well.
That's well said. That's a great closing point for the initial prelim Oak and Rock Fatherhood live stream. You guys will be able to catch us next week. We're doing this on Wednesday next week?
Yes, sir.
All right, next Wednesday, we'll be running another live stream. Same bat time, same bat channel. A different link, though. We'll
Oak and Rock, brother.
That one. Oak and Rock. Oh, man, we're live. I'm pumped. All right. For those who tuned in, thank you very much. We'll be seeing you next week, and stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the other channel, as that's where we'll be dropping videos in between these live streams. Stay strong. Be a great dad.